fruition. I got bars and ink, but never in a prison.
Hey, folks.
You're mute, Jeff.
There we go. Oh.
Hold on.
That's how you got to start it off, man. You got to have your shit bucked up.
No.
Come on now.
Just reading some lips.
Come on, Andreas.
I'm not hell 9000. Like, I can read your lips. It's like...
Go down on the ground. Go down. Hey, he trained. More than average pit bull.
Wow.
He's a pit rat.
How long it take you to train him?
He's almost a year old.
Wow.
No. Why are you running back to me?
That's right. That's Tom. Remember I was talking about Tom? That was his interview tape that he said. I'm having technical difficulties left and right over here. But anyways, folks, Agatha All Along, episodes 2 and 3, recapped, broken down over here at the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. This is, of course, Wednesday evening, 9/25/2024. We're waiting for Cyberneticshark to be here so that he can do this. But in the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and roll everybody into the show and ask you guys.
Who's here?
Oh, thank you, Andreas. How'd you know? How'd you know?
Magic. I just like Cyber's in the chat. I was like, oh, he's here somewhere.
Cyber, we were going to lose Facebook, buddy, so we had to go live.
Yep. I figured as much.
I got it all set up for you, sir. It's all ready to rock and roll.
All right. Excellent. Good job.
I did introduce Ryan from Beyond the Cape podcast, or Andre's a pop culture guy. Channel presents. What's up, guys?
Not much.
Excellent. All right. So, welcome everyone to the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. Like Mr. Jeff S. TrueKnowledge mentioned before, I am echoing somewhere. I don't know why.
There you go. Hey, I'm gonna do it for my nigga I just met right here, y'all. My mind's telling me no, but that crack, y'all. That crack keeps telling me yes. Gotta go.
There you go. Yeah. Anyway, so we're live Wednesday night, as Mr. TrueKnowledge mentioned, to discuss the second and third episode of Agatha All Along. And surprisingly, after watching the first 3 episodes, I was just mentioning myself that I'm really shocked at the value and the content that these 3 episodes have produced. I was really worried about this series going in, so I'm actually really shocked at how decent it has been. It hasn't been as bad as I've heard and so forth. So I'm actually really shocked by that, especially with this being the end of that really bad phase of Marvel. So if you remember correctly, last time we saw Agatha, which of course was at the end of WandaVision, we have been left in a transition, basically a spell by Wanda. And so, as we saw in the previous episode, basically she finally gets awakened from that spell and is basically trying to get her powers back. So just kind of a rundown for you guys to kind of catch you up if you have not watched the first episode. So second episode, going into this, is really kind of a character building episode if you think about it. There's a lot of basically introductions of new characters, introducing a previous character we have seen before, and kind of the building blocks of this new coven that Agatha is creating. So my first question for you guys is, going from episode 1 into episode 2. Now, I'm sure a lot of us probably watched the first 2 together, but if you did, that's no big deal. I just want to get your guys' thoughts. What were your expectations going into this second episode? Starting with you, Andres.
Sure. Yeah, so we did the first episode last week. We reviewed it. I went in right away to see episode 2, see what they offer, and I was very happy that they nailed episode 2, getting us to the characters that we're going to follow to the series, the mystery, with the team, and just overall Africa's like her like just evilness coming back. It was all fun, and I was hoping for a horror bent on the show, which they did not disappoint, which I love. So overall, I was very pleasant surprised and very pleased with episode 2.
All right. Thank you, sir. Ryan, same question, sir. Your expectations going into the second episode, sir?
Yeah, I had a lot of reservations about this show in general because Agatha is such a minor character. I mean, God, she was the babysitter for the Fantastic Four, if we go back to the comic books. So I had a lot of worries about this show. But when I kind of saw that they were getting everyone kind of back together, the whole making the team kind of montage, I'm always for that, especially from McGruber to down the line. I love when they do like those little montages of getting everyone together. So I was pleasantly surprised. Excellent.
Jeff, same question.
I am online right now, multitasking, and I am responding to a person in Quora that wants to is wondering why you can't just buy a ticket and go to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know what I'm saying? Like, just go live in one of the civilizations in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm responding to the person right now being like, motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? Are you trying to live in Wakanda? Say hi to Black Panther for me.
That's right. We're Wakanda forever.
That's what I'm saying. Like, tell Black Panther, sure, yeah, I said, what's up? While you're over there. So after episode 1, Cyber, to answer your question, I just wanted episode 2 and 3 to just be not cringe. Just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, okay, I see where this is going. So, like, please, like, as much as possible, try to skip the cringe. You know what I'm saying? Like, I see that it's going to be there. You're going to give me cringe. I get that now. I've already experienced it in episode 1. I tasted it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, since I don't enjoy cringe overall, you know what I mean? Like, it's not really like, I enjoy talking about it. Like, this is enjoyable for me. I get to hang out with cool people like Ryan and kind of cool people like Andre's pop culture guy. You know, semi-cool. You know what I mean, Cyber? Averagely cool. Averagely. Since that's a new word I just came up with. Averagely, Andres is cool. So I get to hang out with people like that, and talk about the cringe, which is cool. But, like, overall, when it comes to, like, my TV watching, type deal, like that whole experience for me, I don't really enjoy hardcore cringe. So my biggest thing was I wanted to go into episode 2 and 3 and have a cringe-free experience as much as possible. And, hopefully if there was cringe-worthy type content, it would be very limited in its capacity. So I would not, like, overtly, like, totally damage the whole structure of the series and ruin it for me, Because, like, I don't want that. I got to cover it on top of the MCU'S Bleeding Edge, bitch. You know what I'm saying? I got people that expect me here to do my shit. So, at that point, you don't want shit to be like The Acolyte again, right? Nobody wants that. Nobody wants The Acolyte again. If you do, then you're almost as cool as Andre's pop culture guy. That's all I got to say, sir.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So, this episode 2, is called Circle Sewn with Fate, Unlock Thy Hidden Gate. So, like I said before, this episode is kind of a character building episode. It starts right off after, Aubrey Plaza's character has left, and we see Agatha basically getting dressed. And she ends up talking with the character known as the Teen. And basically he says he wants to find the road and that he wants him and her to find it. And she's like, yeah, the road's a myth. And he's like, no, I know it's real. You've been there before. I know it. Let's do it. And basically, she ends up agreeing to do it after they kind of have like this little conversation. So then basically they decide they have to gather people to start a coven. So they basically end up going out and starting to bring in their coven. So the first person they end up popping up on is played by Patti LuPone, who plays Lilia Caldero, who happens to be a witch that is good in divination. And so they basically end up stopping at her little divination place, and they go in and they have a conversation with her. And, basically they're kind of doing their like shenanigans thing, kind of like trying to work her so that she kind of gives away that there's more to her than meets the eye. And so then she kind of, chimes in on it and, realizes what they're really there for, because she really has powers. And so basically they kind of have a conversation back and forth like, oh, you should join. No, I don't want to join you, Agatha. We know all about you, Agatha, type of deal. And basically Agatha is able to weasel her way into getting Patti LuPone's character to kind of agree. She even, brings up the notice of eviction notice that she has, that, don't you want to be something again? Don't you want to be great again? And, kind of like she's, basically down her luck type of deal, kind of like all the witches throughout this episode. All of them were kind of down on her luck. And she, Patti LuPone's character even mentions how, throughout the ages, like how all the things that she's had to deal with, and that she doesn't like that, and she's, over 400 years old. And I love how Agatha's like, oh, you don't look a day over 450, which is really funny. And so she basically, like I said, weasels her way to get kind of, her to kind of agree, saying we're meeting at this place at this time, be there, if you want to be a part of it. So then they start making their way to another place. And we have kind of a moment there where they're driving the car, and Agatha, for some reason, has a moment where she can't hear him talking for some reason. And she like tries doing the radio, still can't hear him. And then all of a sudden she's able to hear him again, which was kind of funny. And I was kind of cracking up going, I wonder if this is going to mean something later on. And so then they get to the mall, and at the mall, oh wait, is it the mall first? No, sorry, not the mall. We don't go there yet.
They went to the mall?
Yeah, they end up going to a mall. That's where the Asian chick is. Alicia Wu Gulliver. No, before that, they go see Jennifer, which I got mixed up there for a second. Anyway, so they go see Jennifer, who happens to be running a lotions place, and she happens to be a potion witch. And basically the same thing happens. They do their shenanigans. They, basically end up getting her to start talking, and they basically tune her into what they're trying to do. And, basically leave it at, you could show up if you want to, but I realize that your life is in shambles and that you kind of need a help with the rogue. The rogue can help you get back on your feet, get your powers back, because we know you lost your powers just like I have. We had that great moment too with Patti LuPone's character where, Agatha tells Patti, she's like, as long as you guys don't strike me, I can't extract your power. Kind of giving her that kind of deal thing going on there. So I think that once again, Agatha weasels her way into that. So we have that great moment, which is really fun, and we'll stop there. So what are you guys' thoughts on the introduction of these two new characters, Lilia Caldero, Jennifer Kale? What do you think about that introduction to the episode? What do you think about the teen? Do you think the teen, there's more to him than meets the eye? After I've seen like bits and pieces now of different articles saying that the director said that the teen's not what people are saying the teen is and stuff like that. So what are kind of thoughts on the kind of that beginning intro of the episode? Starting with you, Ryan.
Yeah, the intro it started off a lot better because, like Jeff said, I had my issues with WandaVision and just going through every episode being a different sitcom. It got old after a while, so I was happy to see them kind of launch right into the story as we got into the narrative. That being said, with Teen, when she couldn't hear him talking about his past, and as we recap episode 3, because they dropped a lot of names in episode 3 that makes me think I know who he's going to be from all the hints they dropped this last episode. There's definitely a bigger backstory. It has to be, just to make that such a focal point in the episode that she can't hear. And you could tell it piques her interest because she wants to know why there's something that she can't understand. The best thing about these witches is everyone wants a comeback story. And I think that's what, this is. You're taking all the outcasts and the rejects and you're forming a reject coven. And that's going to be the most dangerous because no one really expects much out of them. I think the Salem 7 that was introduced at the end of the first episode, they're kind of hoping that they're just going to die on the witch's road. And I guarantee they kind of just wrote them off that our job's done here. We really don't have to worry about it. So yeah, that was actually a pretty good halfway point to this second episode.
Thank you. Andreas, same question.
The teen, starting with the teen, I think the actor Joe Locke is really good. I think he has chemistry with with the actress Harkness. I think he does a really good job of comedy so well. Like, he's so optimistic with the witchcraft and the witch's road. So I really dug that, and it's just great comedy, like buddy comedy. You got Harkness being the straightforward, like person, with her sense of humor, and then you get this kid that knows everything, and all that was pretty nice. And it's kind of obvious who he is, but I'm kind of curious, like, what caused him not to say his name, so that's very interesting. So I'm very curious about that, and whatever it lands, I think it will be a satisfying one, maybe, but we'll see. They're meeting the two other ladies, especially with Jennifer Kell. She's from the comic books. Very interesting. I like how they do a good job of like making these witches very unique, and like seeing kind of like the like very witchy trope that we've seen from the previous movies and TV that we've seen. You got Jennifer being the one that lost her powers, and she's is pretty much suspended of witchcraft, so it's very intriguing. And this moment, this is where I really like John Locke's character, because just the way he's like enticing these two women to join the covenant, and so like helping Harkness out to get it, like the covenant up and running. So that was really cool. And oh my god, the one, the older one that has the was it the future kind of like reading people's divination, right? Yeah. I really like her, and a well-respected actress. Like, I think she's my favorite, and I'm very curious how her character is going to end in this show. And and she knows who Africa is, and she's very careful, be around her, which is good. And I think this section was really fun, and it gets like I can understand Ryan about WandaVision. At least I appreciate with this one, we're getting a lot of plot going, where I think WandaVision maybe lacked a little bit of that. Here, I'm happy that the plot is moving forward. That's something that's been a problem with all these Disney Plus shows. So overall, I love this section, and I'm very excited to talk about the other characters.
Okay. Jeff, anything to add, sir?
Well, this is not WandaVision. Like there's not even you can say what you want about WandaVision, but there's no comparison as so far through 3 episodes in terms of quality. the quality of the series so far for as far as my standpoint goes, where this series right now holds up to WandaVision like as a show. WandaVision was a pretty solid show. It was something that wasn't for everybody, I guess. At first, but if you stuck with it, it paid off down the road. But it'll stand. It stands up as a solid TV show to watch. If you ever have to watch a TV show on the plane and you can watch WandaVision, that's not a bad spot to be put in. It's very watchable. But as far as the introduction goes, I don't like the whole like deal where the teen is called the teen. Like, that is so fucking stupid. You know what I'm saying? The teen? What the fuck is that? Like, called somebody teen? What the fuck is that? That is so retarded. Like, they couldn't have come up with a better deal than that. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? That just sounds, it does not roll the tongue well at all. The teen? Come on. It sounds like some crazy shit that you'd expect to be going down in like Dungeon Master's dungeon. You know what I'm saying? In the dungeon. The teen. Come on now. It's like a wrestling name, And as far as the recruiting of the witches goes, that was done so stereotypically, like just like any other recruitment, like segue part of any film that you've ever seen. We've got to recruit your roster, you got to build your team. You know what I'm saying? Like it was very generic, like, and like, what's her name? Catherine Hahn's Southern accent is terrible. Pathetic. I did not like her Southern accent.
What accent?
Yeah, what accent? What are you talking about?
She was using a Southern accent.
No.
What are you talking about? She's just using her regular voice.
Ryan, bail me out. Wasn't she using a Southern accent?
In the first recruiting for the divination office, she was pretending to be like some Southern woman from with her son to like try to see if she knew who she was.
I need the location of the gold bars or whatever.
Yeah.
That was funny as fuck.
Yeah, she's just doing that to just pull her string and just to see if her powers does work.
Well,
and she knew that.
My point is that I'm trying to determine if this show is like fantasy within fantasy, or if this is actually the like some of these moments are actually the show. If that makes sense, I'm having a hard time deciphering whether this is fantasy on top of fantasy at times. Like what's going on, the way that the acting is, the way that some of the scenes are played off, the way that Catherine Hahn is playing the lead character, I feel like it's fantasy on top of fantasy. It's what they're doing. Like that's the gimmick of the show. That's what they're doing. It's like off of WandaVision, they're doing a fantasy on top of fantasy, where it's kind of like the rules of your normal TV show are off the table, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Like you can kind of bypass some of the normal rules. And I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm not quite there yet, but that's my take on the introduction or that part of the episode is that I'm just trying to determine the level of fantasy that they're trying to take this show, because it's if that makes sense. It's not really satirical all the time, but it seems there seems to be a lot of far-fetchedness to some of this stuff. I guess you could say is my point. But anyway, sir, I like the introduction, at least the pace of episode 2. I just although I like the young actor that plays the teen, I don't like the name the teen.
Okay. All right. Okay. So from there, like I said, we go to the mall where Agatha and the teen are sitting and eating.
Motherfucker.
Waiting for the, to find their third witch that they're looking for, Miss Alice Wu Gulliver. And so when they figure out where she is, of course, while they're eating, all of a sudden Agatha notices a rat seems to be staring at her. And I'm to my thought process, I'm thinking that the crow, the rat, it has to do with with Miss Vidal's character. I think that has to do either with that or it's somebody else that she knows from her past. And so I definitely think that there's something going on. I have a feeling, to go back to what you were just saying, Mr. Jeff, about you can't figure out if it's reality on reality or, fantasy on fantasy, whatever. I think it's going to be the same thing that happened in WandaVision, where it's Agatha all along. I think this time around, it's going to have to do something with Aubrey Plaza's character. I think she's doing some things that are causing fantasy to be on fantasy in the series. So I think that definitely is something that it will play out at the end of the series. But yeah, there's definitely something kooky going on that's making it hard to understand where they're going. But back to Alice Wu Gulliver. So they basically find her in the store. She's working as a security guard. And they go into the store and they pretend to shoplift something so that she basically attacks the teen. And she does that. She attacks him, got some on the floor, and then Agatha starts telling her, so we're getting a new coven together. We wanted you to be a part of it. We need a type of witch that you are. And we could really use you. Are you in? Like type of deal. And, of course, she ends up losing her job because they lie about not stealing something. And they walk out, and basically, once again, Agatha does her spiel to, manipulate, and basically, leaves it at that, of course. And, Miss Wu walks away. Then they go back to Agatha's house, where we see Agatha. She's changed her clothes and is more in a witch attire. And she comes outside and she notices a wolf. And definitely a sign of something is coming. She ends up walking back in. And Mr. Joe Locke is putting up a sign saying, welcome, Coven. And he's like, do you think that's centered? And Agatha walks over to it and it's like, let me see. I think it looks better that way. And, Joe Locke is like, you think they're going to show up? And she's like, they should, I think. And they're kind of talking a little back and forth, and then that's when Jennifer pops up. And she, walks in and is like, oh, so this is where we're going, huh? This is where we're staying. And then all of a sudden, after they're talking for a second, that's when, Miss Lilia, Miss AKA Patty Lapone, pops up. And then eventually Alice pops up as well. And so we have kind of, the kind of beginning of them, saying, okay, so we are all here. Let's, get this on. And they're like, wait, where's our nature person? Our green witch. And she's like, oh, we don't need the earth witch, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, we do, because we're going to need their help to do the trials. And they're kind of like bickering back for like why they need it. She's like, and they're like, and Joe Locke's like, what was the fourth name? There was a fourth name on the list, wasn't there, Lilia? She's like, yeah, it was a black heart. And Alice is like, a black heart. And like, and then Agatha's like, oh, I know who it is. And she goes out to one of her neighbor's house, which we end up getting to see Deborah Jo Rupp again, who plays, of course, Mrs. Hart, or who she wants to be called now, Sharon Davis, because Mrs. Hart was who she was under Wanda's spell. And basically like, oh, wait, well, you're having this party over here. You should come over and be a part of it. And she's like, oh, really? It's a party? So she ends up coming over. They have her to be the Earth Witch and Green Witch. And she pops up and they end up down in the basement, and they're all kind of standing around. And she's like, are we doing laundry? She mentions and stuff like that. And they're like, oh no, we gotta recite the song. We gotta sing it. And so as they're down there doing that thing, Joe Locke, asked, Agatha, what should he do? And she's like, you should stay upstairs and close the windows and stuff because I feel there's like a draft in here. And so he goes back upstairs and is like, doing what he said. And all of a sudden he notices some people appear. And we see these black robe people. And who happen to be the Salem 7. And they start marching towards the house. And he's like basically starts to freak out. And so he starts closing the windows and pushing furniture and crap in front of the doors and stuff like that. As they're doing that, we go down back to the witches and they start singing the song. And we get this kind of musical number that goes on. And they're singing the song. And each of them starts singing and they're all singing. They start singing and shit. And they're singing the song and dealing with Dylan and, Joe Locke's still dealing with the people upstairs. And as that happens, basically they end up getting to the end of the song. Nothing has appeared. They're like, nothing happened. Like, usually it should pop up faster than this, Agatha says. And Joe Locke is still messing with the people upstairs as they're, dealing with this. And so then Agatha starts to like basically try to get the other witches to be mad at her so that they will hit her so that she can get some power. And and so she is, starts like doing her kind of her thing, kind of Weasley thing, getting in there, like saying certain things to really get them to basically like say get mad at her and to use their powers on her. Well, which to me makes no sense because AK Jennifer does not have any powers, so she can't do anything. Patti LuPone's character, she might be able to do something. And we're not sure about Alice Wu because she really hasn't shown that she has some sort of powers. So I kind of don't get it, but at the same time, I get that, Agatha's trying to make things go along. So as they're kind of bickering back and forth, all of a sudden the door appears. A big door. And like, was that there a minute ago? And they're like, no. And so they start to open it. And as they're opening it, that's when Joe comes flying down saying, if that's the road, we should go now. And they make their way down the stairs. Agatha's the last one to come out. We briefly see her look up as she's closing the doors and we see a creature, one of the Salem 7 up on the steps. And she's like, oh, and she closes the doors. And as the noise is getting closer to the door, all of a sudden, the noise stops and she looks back up and the ceiling has become the ceiling again. And the door has vanished. And so then she goes down the stairs to meet the others on the road. And they have come to the Riches Road. And so as they look at it, they're kind of like, oh, this is, we got to start traveling the Riches Road. And all of a sudden, as they kind of, start to make their way, they all take off their shoes and start walking down the road. And then the episode ends. All right. So what are you guys' thoughts on kind of the last portion of episode 2? What did you think about the song? What did you think about, the doorway to the road? What did you think about the Salem 7? Kind of your overall thoughts kind of on the end part of episode 2. Let's start with you, Jeff.
Well, they could have done more with the Salem 7. There could have been, they were very shrouded in darkness, like you really couldn't make out much of them. So they weren't as scary as they could have been almost, or intimidating as they could have been, when they were grabbing up the teen and all that shit. It looked kind of like playtime, like it didn't look really serious, like that they were really like a major danger to him, he was just kind of fooling around and getting away from them. So it would have been nice if they would have gave them a little bit more of a scary look or whatever to them, but I did like their look of the Salem 7. I did like how they looked in like the traditional witch garb or whatever. That was pretty tight. Besides that, the singing scene was semi cringe because it very much reminded me of episode 3 of The Acolyte at times. You know, like the singing. I'm not much for singing personally. So like, if you guys like singing, good for you. But I don't really care for it. So I was like, what the fuck? This shit is fucking stupid when they were singing. But they got the road going, and that's the main point. And I'm like, episode 2 was not my favorite episode out of episode 2 and 3. I can tell you that right now. Once they activated the road and they got the road part going, I was all in there. They had me going. But until that point, when she had to assemble her roster with the different team members and all that shit, they kind of lost me a little bit. I was kind of like, okay, hanging in there, but hard to stay interested at times. You know, I'm sorry, but and then in WandaVision, like if this town is supposed to be like everybody that's left from WandaVision is left in this town, right? Where was all of this multiculturalism in WandaVision? Where were all these black people and Chinese chicks and shit and like all this other shit? The fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like they fucked up with that. So I'm just trying to be clear. But that's all I got, sir. I'm ready for episode 3.
All right. Ryan, your thoughts, sir.
As much as Jeff doesn't like music, I love that song. I would say the only other time that I did not like a song was the one that stays with me. What was it? Jenny of the Old Stones, right before the Battle of the Night King in the original Game of Thrones. That song also sticks out. So I loved it. Man, there's so much to unpack on this one. First of all, Alice Wu is the best character ever. If no one's read the comic books, also known as the Wu, the protector of Hong Kong, when magic went and put someone down, she was not afraid of using what she would call the 9mm to the head to take someone down. So I really hope that somehow comes to play in this episode. The best part was when they said, I think it was at the beginning of this. I don't know if we addressed it or not, but Blackheart, for Ghost Rider, Blackheart is one of the best villains. They did it so bad in the original Ghost Rider. I hated that character. So if that's the Blackheart we're talking about, I'm gonna be super excited.
Good call out, Ryan. Good call out.
Yeah,
I like Blackheart too from the comments.
I'll be super, super happy about that. And they kind of hint at some stuff later on that we'll discuss. But the Salem 7 was definitely the best part of this ending, for sure. Again, from the comic books, they all share one father, which this might all come full circle at some point. And I think when Cyber was saying was the animals Rio's doing, the Salem 7 in the comic books, all 7 of them each had an animal that they could morph into. So I always thought that was just like the Salem 7 following her so they could keep track on where she's getting this group together. So that's why they knew exactly where to go in Westview, and they kind of saw what she was getting together and where she was going, and they decided to put a stop to that before it got too far. But I thought the ending, that was the best part of the episode, because I knew episode 3 going into it was going to be lit.
Excellent, thank you. Andreas, your thoughts, sir.
Yeah, I really loved this section. This is where the show really picked up for me. I didn't mind the song. They did a good job of setting up that melody with the first episode of this, so I was expecting that. And look, we got a Broadway actress here who's singing, so if you have that, then your song is gonna be good. So, and it was funny at the same time when you see Miss Hart like not singing, she was like it's like, come on, like you have to enjoy that. And the taking the shoes thing, that's a very like witchcraft traditional when you have to do like a seance or something like that. It's like this very ritual thing to do, to take your shoes to like do this like spell or something like that. So this show is doing a really great job of like depicting witchcraft and sorcery like very well, because that's something that we saw a little bit of it in WandaVision, but it wasn't like deep. Here, they're doing a really great job of like really just spelling out like what witchcraft is, and that's good because we're gonna get a lot more, sorcery and witchcraft in the MCU. Not only Harkness is like some other characters that are important in the MCU, supernatural, right? The black card, the last name that they didn't block. I was thinking about that too, but I heard one theory that I kind of like. I think it's hinting at Archery Process character because think about it, she is the other witch that's connected to Harkness. She could be the one that's actually for the Earth, for the Covenant, because Harkness didn't pick another witch that was filling that position. I think she did that intentionally because she thinks that name that Lydia like theorized or like predicted to be for the Covenant and whatnot, it could be her, and so that's just adding more intrigue and mystery about this relationship that we got hinted at in the first episode. So I'm very curious where we're gonna get that confirmation and whatnot. And yeah, I was very happy, right? You brought up the comic books, like Alice Wu, like fantastic, character. If you ever read the Scarlet Witch run, she's really fantastic there. And I'm very happy about this version of the character. I like her reason for coming to the role is because she wants to know what happened to her mom. That it makes very much emotional sense why she will take it, And I think so far I really like that. And yeah, the Seven Asylums, it's a comic book thing connected to Harkness. If you read the Fantastic Four and all that, very creepy. And I like that they're not pulling strings. That's the thing I really appreciate about that. They're not pulling, their hands or strings with us. It's like, here, we're taking you in this dark, horror bent kind of show, and they're not pulling away. And one thing I appreciate, just wrapping on, that I like about this episode, that we're not forgetting Harkness as a villain. This is something I really appreciate this show, and the Penguin, is that we're not forgetting our main character that we're following are villains, because this is something I hate about the recent comic book, like villain centric film, like particularly the sewing films, which is so stupid because they're not understanding what to make them intrigue. They're villains, and I get you have to change it. Some can work, like Loki. That makes sense. Sure. Like they did that. Like he's an anti-hero. I like it. It makes sense. Here, I really appreciate like this and the Penguin. They have their own agenda, and like they're not good people, and they have some soul in themselves, but it's not like what happened to that. And I'm very curious where we're gonna see like what happened to Harkness, and like does he have a kid? That's something like that's been like very theorized. So but when we get into episode 3, it's been confirmed, but but overall I love this episode. It's fantastic. I'm very excited to talk about episode 3.
All right, fantastic job, everyone. So that concludes episode 2. What ranking will we give this episode, folks? Starting with you, Andreas.
I'll give it an 8 out of 10. It was a good, decent follow-up to the first episode. Yeah, I have no problem with it. It did its job, which is good.
All right, Ryan.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd go like 7.5 because you need this episode. It's like Game of Thrones again. When you look at the first episode, how action packed, you can't just move right into the next plot point. You gotta build something up before you move forward. So, yeah, accomplished exactly what was laid out in episode 3.
Excellent, Jeff.
I'll give it a 5.5 just because it was. I get it. It was like a building up episode, but it still just did not really entertain me that much. So unfortunately, I dropped the hammer.
I give it a 9. And just like everyone else was mentioning, besides Jeff, I enjoyed the music too. I thought it was a really great song as well. I thought it was fun. It was very entertaining. And yeah, Patti LuPone, I listen to Patti LuPone sing all day long. She is amazing. She is amazing. All right, so going on to the third episode, which is called Through Many Miles of Tricks and Trials. So this is the first one not directed by Jack Schaefer. This one is actually directed by Rachel Goldberg. She actually directs the next 3 episodes. And this one happens to be written by Cameron Squires. And this one basically starts off, they're on the road. And they're like walking down it and stuff like that and trying to figure out what to do. And basically they kind of have a group conversation of, that they're going to be doing trials and, and stuff like that. That's what it's all about on the road. And, that they need to basically figure out what to do. And as they're doing that, and, of course, we have the complaining going on, and we have, Sharon being Sharon, played by Deborah Jo Rupp, who is absolutely freaking hilarious. Absolutely love Deborah Jo Rupp. Love her as Kitty in that 70s show, the 90s show. Pretty much anything she's ever in, I always enjoy her. I think she's super funny. And basically at one point, as they're, discussing what they need to do, Sharon disappears, and they're like, where'd Sharon go? And they're trying to look for her, and we see her. She's gone off the road, like very, very short off the road, and she puts her purse down, and then all of a sudden starts getting pulled into the mud, and she tries to grab it. It's like, no, and she's like, don't take my purse, and as she's trying to grab it, it starts to pull her in. And so when they realize that she's missing, they go looking for her, they find her and grab her before she gets pulled in as well, with the purse. And I love that she mentions the name of the bag, the type of purse it is, because the type of purse it is, that it's a very well-known place that a whole bunch of women I know go and buy purses at, which was super hilarious, Talbots. And I always crack up whenever I hear that term, because I was just like, she mentioned Talbot, she's like, it's a Talbot's bag. And I was just laughing. So I thought that was super funny. And so they pull her out, and she's like, what? She's like, all I did was sit down for a second. And they're like, we need to make some rules. And Agatha's like, the first rule, do not go off the road. And we see Sharon go, oh. And they're like, that way we keep ourselves safe and we don't die. And, do we all agree? Okay, yep. And so after they have acquired this rule, they start walking. All of a sudden they notice, hey, was that there before? And all of a sudden they see a giant like mansion, and it's like it's glowing like almost reddish. And so they go and they walk over to it, and they end up entering. And after they enter it, all of a sudden the clothes they were wearing have changed into like almost like yacht clothes, I like to call it. They look like, if you were to go on a yacht and you're like, we're all very like very pristine looking, very posh looking. And so they're all like in these new clothes and stuff like that, they're like at a country club, and basically they make their way in. So before we go past that, what are you guys' thoughts kind of on the intro of the road? What did you think about the road trying to eat Sharon? What did you think about kind of their back and forth talking and stuff like that? Basically kind of, nailing each other for not, being good at what they are, and like, all that kind of good stuff. And leading up to them going into the house and then changing clothes into their yacht clothes, as I like I said. What were you guys' thoughts on that section of the episode? I'll start with you, Jeff.
Yeah, I didn't. It really didn't make a lot of sense to me that they would add a non-witch to the roster of the team to take on the road. All right, we got the road going here. The road, bitch. Like, they made that very clear. It's this big fucking deal. The road. How you gonna just grab Miss Hart from WandaVision and throw her on the squad and put her on the road and shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. That was far-fetched a little bit. Like, that does not make sense. So I didn't really know what to think about all that. Yeah, she's great in that 70s show. Deborah Ann Rupp is great. That 70s show is a great show. I rewatched the whole thing a couple of years ago. Loved it. Loved rewatching it. I rewatched the whole fucking thing. It was great. Loved that 70s show. But good episode 3. Great intro for the most part. You spent the road to be treacherous, I guess. So like, of course, if you go off of it, bad shit's gonna happen to you. The overall, I guess you could say, collaborative aspect of the group of the Coven does not really bear fruit until you kind of move forward in the episode. So at first, it's kind of just a shouting match, which I was there for. But again, Joe Locke's presence, the teen, like, he almost has no role at times. Like, even right in the beginning, he almost has no space, no spot really. And people are like, you wonder why everybody's so quick to accept him. Like, he's just this kid that showed up with Agatha Harkness. Like, why are they accepting him so easily? Like, who is this fucking kid? He's not adding anything to the group. So, like, I didn't really know what to think about that. The transition of him into the group with Agatha, and them all going on the road together, because it all happened so quickly at the end of episode 2. And so episode 3 gets a lot better, but it starts off for me a little suspect, we'll say. But it gets better. It gets a lot better as we go. The road gets better.
All right. Ryan, your thoughts, sir?
I found it funny as hell that everyone kept on calling her Mrs. Hart, and she would like immediately correct them. You can call me Sharon, because I spent the whole episode like, come on, Mrs. Foreman, don't do that. You know better than that. And that purse stealing scene, again, being familiar with Talbot's from my wife, that was funny as hell, because I know for a fact she would dive head in over for that purse. And I'm definitely not going to, I don't know if I'd be able to pull her out of that. So we let the purse go. The funniest part, though, that intro is when she literally stepped through a door in a basement after singing a song, and her first thing is to pull out the cell phone and be like, this is a kidnapping. Let me try to call the police. You went down into a cellar and you're in a whole nother world, and your first thing is trying to call the police. That was completely funny. Now, the best thing about it, I think what really set it up, and I knew this was going to be a good episode, is leading up to that, where they see like that golden house before they go in. They all got tired of the teen talking. And I think at one point, even what's her name? She's like, who even are you? What is your name? And that's when they kind of figure out that he has that sigil that prevents him from saying his information to anyone that is a witch specifically, because none of them can understand what he's saying. And I think that's why they're so quick to accept him, is because who would specifically target someone, 2 witches, to not give their information versus just everyone. So that's at that beginning, I knew that this is what was going to set up the episode.
Thank you. Andres, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I like this. I mean, we're off the bat in the Witch's Woe, which is really great. I really like how, like, visually the Witch's Woe is depicted, which is really nice. Using a lot of blues. Yeah, I agree with Ryan when he say about Joe Locke. I mean, the fact that I was wondering if it was not only Harkness, but the witches can maybe hear him or not. And the fact that this episode made that confirmation made me very happy. So that the show is not like tagging me around with this mystery about this kid, and like, can anyone hear his, his voice, when he has to say his name or information that he's spilling. So I was very happy they confirmed that, because, that was the theme from the first, last episode we talked about. So that was very nice. And that makes sense. And plus, look, I mean, he's also the one that got, Harkness out of the spell too. So like, he has to be a witch. So he, you don't know, he could be a very important figure of the Covenant, because how did they get into that, like, the witch's role? The fact that, Miss Foreman wasn't. So, there's the reason why he's there. It's just we don't know the information, at this moment. And also, like, you have to remember, Harkness did that intentionally to drag an innocent person into the Covenant, because she didn't want to go. First, that we haven't brought it. Like, she's afraid. Well, she's not afraid. Like, she knows. Like, she's been to the witch's world. She knows how dangerous it is. So it makes sense that she doesn't want to go at all. So she's trying to temporarily sabotage this mission, really. Like, and we're gonna see that just throughout this episode, which we'll get into. You know, her sabotaging this whole like witch's world journey for everyone. You know, I didn't know that the purse was an actual thing. I thought it was a funny, like, I thought it was a comic book reference for the general tablet, you know, from the Hulk comics. I thought they were doing like a reference, but in a very funny way. I didn't know that was like an actual brand. So I was like, oh, whew. Thank you guys explain that. But yeah, so when we got to the, you know, the house, like that for me was WandaVision all over again. Like we're going to a different setting, like you know, instead of sitcoms, like we're doing something like this, like I don't know, like the you know, like I guess different life or the different type of like horror, like that felt like an A24, like maybe kind of, you know, horror bent, but I don't know. When they enter, it was like kind of cool. It just reminded me of WandaVision, what I like about it, you know, initially. So yeah, so I thought that part was really great, and we were on point, on track for this episode, which is good.
Well, thank you guys. Yeah, I think that this intro is really fun because we get to see kind of the hilarity of the dysfunction of this coven. You know, especially like everyone's mentioned how they're bringing in a person that's not even a witch into it, you know, by bringing in Sharon. And then you have all these witches that are basically in some sort of dysfunction in their real reality, and they need the road to be able to kind of get them out of their funks. So I think it's this beginning sequence really helps you kind of give you that great kind of, you know, vibes of what you're dealing with and what these witches are dealing with. So great job, everyone. So once they're in the house and they have changed clothes and everything, they start making their way around the house, looking at things. And at this point, you know, the teen eventually goes over to a seal or a fireplace and finds a letter or like a postcard thing. And it's almost like, you know, like a wedding invitation or something like that. And, you know, basically they look at it and they're like, oh, look at it's a thing. And so Agatha makes her way over, like, oh God, this is not a baby shower, is it? And so then, you know, Jennifer grabs it, like, no, it's what we need to do. And so she starts reading it, you know, saying basically it's a riddle. And they read off the riddle and they're like, what does that mean? And basically they're kind of talking it out, figuring it out, like, what does this riddle mean? It's definitely one of the trials that we got to do. And so at that point, you know, they're basically they're still kind of trying to figure out. Then all of a sudden they notice this wine all of a sudden appears on the table. And so Sharon sees the wine and goes over to like, oh my God, wine. And like she touches it and they're like, wait, you might not want to touch that. And they're like, oh, okay. And so you know, they're like, maybe you might want to put them down. And she's like, okay. And then she grabs it still and takes it back. And like, anybody got a corkscrew? And they're like, and so the teen's like, oh, I'll go find one. There's the cupboards over here. So he walks over and Jennifer follows him. And then basically Jennifer is kind of like, you know, Agatha can be, you know, evil. So you might not want to trust her, you know? And he's like, I know all about Agatha. I'm good. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, but, you know, well, she did, you know, give her child up for the Darkhold, you know? He's like, what? And she's like, well, that's what they're saying. And basically kind of plants a seed in his brain to kind of get him to start going against Agatha. And so when they make their way back over with the corkscrew and they open the wine and they start pouring it in. And all of a sudden Sharon just grabs it and drinks it down as fast as she can. She's like, I've had a hard day. Don't judge me. And they're like, okay. And so they all start, you know, drinking it and stuff like that. And as they're drinking that, all of a sudden they find a timer and the timer starts. And so they're all kind of like, well, what the hell is the timer for? And basically they're kind of like, drinking around, and we see Agatha kind of not drinking it over there, and kind of, like, oh no, and they're all drinking it and stuff like that. And basically, as they're drinking it, all of a sudden, as Sharon's talking, all of a sudden her face changes, and she starts getting all puffy and swollen in the face. And they're like, you're having like an allergic reaction or something. And they're like, oh, and they all start to kind of freak out. And they're like, what's going on? Like, what could this be? And so then Jennifer starts like asking her, like, do you have tingling in the back of your throat? Blah, blah, blah. And stuff like that. Keep asking her. It's like, I don't know, what does mulberries taste like? And they're trying to like figure out, we've been poisoned basically. And so as they're asking that, all of a sudden all of them their faces all start to pop out and stuff like that. They're all freaking out. So with that, like, we gotta figure this out. We gotta figure out the antidote. And so as as everyone has changed except for Agatha, they're all like, what the hell? And so all of a sudden, like after like a few seconds, all of a sudden all their faces turn back to normal. And they're like, oh, okay. Like, and she's like, yeah, we're definitely been poisoned. If this is the poison or the poison I'm thinking it is, and she basically says the name. First is the initial reaction. Then there will be hallucinations. There will be this and that and stuff like that too. Heart palpitations over that. And one of them is like, oh, I feel heart palpitations. Like, oh, that's another one. And so then I get this kind of off of it, and the area kind of like doing her own thing a little bit. And they're like, what the? And so then all of a sudden she's like, starts to go over and starts trying to break out the window. Like, what are you doing? No, you can't do that. Like, Agatha's like, you didn't drink yours. And because Joe is like, she hasn't drinking hers. And because her glass is still full over here. And they're like, Agatha, you got to drink it. She's like, no. And so they're like, you have to. And finally she drinks it. She's like, oh my God, that's so awful. And so after she drinks it, of course, her face finally starts to pop up. And they're like, we gotta figure out an antidote. We only got so many minutes left. So, so before we get into the antidote, we'll stop there. What are you guys' thoughts on that portion of the episode? Basically, them ended up getting poisoned, and basically kind of their sloop detecting they kind of do at first until they find the card. And just kind of your overall thoughts up until the point where they basically figure out they have to make an antidote. What are you guys' thoughts on that? This time I'll start with you, Brian.
Man, this is where my biggest theory came in from tonight, as we were talking about in episode 2. If you read the comics, you know that Agatha had a son, Nicholas Scratch, who is the father of the Salem 7. And the one thing that the teen said in the first issue or the first episode is that he wants to complete the Witch's Road because he wants power. He said, it's like the only thing that I'm lacking is power. And it makes me wonder if this is one of those things where like him completing the Witch's Road, because what's her name? Jennifer also goes on to say, yeah, you don't know. She sold her baby. She did this. She also made a deal with Mephisto, which again, if you read the comics, you know, Mephistopheles, that's the father of Blackheart, which is why I'm hoping that maybe Rio was like a vessel that he was saving for his son to inherit, because she is ripe with power. And so he's hoping like maybe she'll come through or somehow, or he sent the teen to somehow invade Agatha because maybe the deal went sour when she made like a deal for the Darkhold. So that like completed a huge personal theory that I would like to see play out. That was great. Mrs. Foreman just steals like the whole show from that moment, because when they're looking at the card and they're trying to figure out the clue, they keep saying the clue. They start thinking of magic. She's like, well, it's double bonded, good paper. They're like, well, what could this clue mean? She's like, I'll tell you what it means. It's expensive. That was just fantastic. She just made that. Even when she's like, oh, you know, is this just a club because the witches mean bad girl? Is this a bad girls club? She's like, I think I could be part of this. And then I think at one point she's like, I would drink a virgin's blood if it meant I could get rid of these wrinkles. And that's when she turns around and she's got like the plastic makeover. And it just goes in from there. And like I said, it just really sets up the episode for what's to come next. So I really enjoyed this part.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, them officially saying Mephisto in this episode, I just was like ecstatic as shit because all the people that were saying, "Oh, Mephisto's gonna pop up in WandaVision," now they've actually officially said his name in the MCU finally. So hopefully that means that he'll be eventually coming. Doesn't mean he's gonna come in this series, but he eventually could come up. All right, Jeff, your thoughts, sir, on that section?
Yeah, it's an improvement over the first section of the episode. I really enjoyed the ending, but I mostly would just say that again, I at times, I see by now you see the relevancy of the team to the coven, but that still doesn't throw out the fact that there was no real group talk with the coven about letting him in when they just took off for the road. They just took off. Like they had to go to the road because they were being chased by the Salem 7. So, it's just kind of it's kind of quirky that they finally do get called out. He finally does get called out by now. Agatha does get asked, but I don't know what they're trying to play with, like the angry Agatha stuff. Like when she breaks that glass. Are we that far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that angry Agatha that we get at times. Like, it's so obvious. She's like, oh, go ahead. In episode 2, she's like, oh, go ahead and throw your energy at me. Like that angry Agatha that just breaks shit. Like, it's kind of that. It's far-fetched is what I'm trying to say. That's where I get it, where I come with when I say the fantasy on top of fantasy. I enjoyed the middle part of the episode. It's interesting. It's entertaining. It keeps you going with the episode. You're able to hang in there pretty well, and you start to get to know the individual witches more, which allows character development to happen, and we know how important that is, of course, to the series. So it's nice to see some character development on the end of the witches, right? And I didn't know. I don't know what to think about the whole puffy face deal. I thought it was kind of stupid, to be honest with you. That's all I got to say. A little silly.
Okay, Andres.
So favorite part of this episode. I mean, for a couple of reasons. I was like, when Jennifer brought up Mephisto, I was like, oh, they did it. I was like, oh my god, it was like a relief. I was like, it was one of the first time as a comic book fan, I was like geeking out. I was like, yes, thank the Lord, or thank Satan, I guess, like for this, but I was very intrigued about, like, okay, like she had a child and she gave it over to evil, for the Darkhold. Okay, that was really intriguing. So I'm very curious now what happened to the kid, because we'll get into the next couple minutes. But I'm very curious about that, and I was like so happy that we're getting more information about Harkness and who she is. This show is about her, and I like the little small bits that we get about her as a person, and how she was like this many years. I mean, she is a immortal witch. I really like Mrs. Foreman here. Like, she is the MVP of this episode. When she grabbed the card, she said, "Oh, this is like a 20 expensive, invitation card." I was laughing die hard. I was like, "What?" It was like so funny. And then her face was like so like After Earth, the Will Smith, Jaden Panic Smith movie. I was like, whoa, that was like, what the hell is going on here? And I don't know, I don't think that Jennifer is trying to like make well maybe is trying to like persuade him to like go against Harkness, but also watch out too, as well, because I mean all of them are watching their backs over Harkness, like they know her, so I think they're being very careful what they're doing with her. Yeah, and again, this scene when she was breaking the glass, or her not drinking the the wine tells you she has done this, and she's like she doesn't want to go through with this again, and so it's like again she's sabotaging this whole world, and it's like why she doesn't want to do it again, but obviously we got our answer with this episode. But yeah, I fairly enjoyed it. I was just happy. It was so funny. It gave you confirmation, finally that Mephisto's MCU. I think, thinking about the kid, I think Joe Luck is Blackheart, and that he is cursed by Mephisto, because remember we're supposed to get Mephisto in Ironheart, maybe. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but if we're going to get Ghost Rider, this is actually be kind of cool way to bring Blackheart, again, so I think if this Joe Luck team is not Billy, Wickenen, that's the name. It's not that, then it makes a lot of sense. It'd be Blackheart. So that's my theories. But yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Oh, great job, guys. All fantastic. All right. And everyone gets 1 billion points because you're all done fantastic. All right. So moving on with the episode. So at this point, they start going to gather the products they need. After Jennifer tells them what they need to be able to create a potion to be able to counteract the poison. So they all start going to, get their, things that they have to grab. And while they're doing this, all of a sudden they all start to have hallucinations. We have Alice hallucinate about her mother. We have Patty LaPoe basically have hallucinations about villagers she had to deal with. We have, Jennifer hallucinating about, I'm assuming some guy that took her powers. I'm assuming that's who that's supposed to be. And each of them are hallucinating and having this is a real thing going on. Jennifer is being drowned. Alice is basically her mother's going crazy, and Patty is having to deal with the villagers yelling at her for whatever reason. And so they're all dealing with their thing, and finally they kind of snap out of it after a few minutes and start making their way. Joe has found the item they needed, him and Alice needed, and Jennifer had grabbed the bug portion she needed for it, and Patty LaPone had had some of the petroleum that they needed along with Agatha, and basically Agatha goes back to find her, and and she's kind of says something, and Agatha is like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand, and they all make their way back to the kitchen. And they're like, okay, Jennifer, what do we do? And Jennifer's like, hold on. She, basically I just almost being drowned, I thought, and basically, says, okay, starts trying to figure out what to do. And it's kind of freaking out. And basically at this point, as they're doing it, they start putting all the things into the sink to do the potion. And we watch the sink change colors and stuff like that as they're adding things. And at one point where they're like, petroleum? And they're like, and she's like, yeah, put them in. They're like, we do it. And, so they're throwing all the things in. And basically they get to the point where what next? And she's like I said, Jennifer's kind of I don't know what to do. And basically okay, now we need hair from each other. And so they start doing that. And, Jennifer kind of freaks out a little bit. And then Agatha kind of grabs her and says, you could do this. You could do this, you're more powerful than you think, and all this kind of good stuff. And, basically gives her a real pep talk versus being her usual Agatha self. And so she's like, okay, and she's gets back to it, and they start doing the thing. And she's like, it'll change this color and blah, blah, blah. And so they all start to, grab their hairs, and then that's when Agatha finally has her, hallucination. And the hallucination, she sees a baby crib and it's rocking, and you hear a baby crying. And she goes and pulls the thing down, and it's a Darkhold. And you're like, and she's like, oh, And this is the first time you kind of see Agatha kind of vulnerable. You see her kind of be like an actual human being, and you're like, Agatha actually has a heart. Like, what? And so it's like we get that great kind of moment, and then she snaps out of it, and they're like, Agatha, we need your hair. And so they grab the hair and they start putting it in finally, and it starts basically trying to say, okay, so Joe, I need you to do this, sort of counterclockwise. She's like, left. And she's like, okay. And they all put the hair and that, and she's like, it should change to a blue color. So all of a sudden, after doing it, and he stops stirring, it has changed to like a teal color. And like, change to a teal color. I don't think that's right. It's kind of a mix between blue and green. And they're like, Jennifer, what's wrong? They're like, I don't know. She's like, and then she's like, oh, we need the blood of somebody that isn't poisoned. And they're like, and Agatha grabs a knife and goes, thanks for being underage. It slices his hand and pours some blood in there, and then it turns into the blue that they need. And so they then take shots and start drinking it down. And at this point, too, we can't forget, at this point, Sharon is unconscious, and they're like trying to save her too as well. And the time is ticking down, and they all drink the stuff, and they're like, okay. And they're like, oh, wait, Sharon. And so they grab some, they pour some down her throat. And all of a sudden, the oven opens, and that's like their exit out of there. And they're like looking in there going, oh, must be the exit. And Patty LuPone's like, no, I don't do that. I've seen this happen before. There was a witch before that had this happen. 2 little children killed her. And totally referencing Hansel and Gretel, which I think was hilarious. And then she's like, I'm not going in there. And like, yeah, that's our way out. And so they all start making their way in there. And they're like, we got to bring Sharon. We got to save her too. And they're like, oh, okay. And so Agatha goes over and helps Alice grab her. And, ends up bringing her down. Get her there. Excuse me. Wow. How annoying. Anyways, so they all make their way in there, and the door closes behind them, and then all of a sudden it's like they're on a slippery slide, like I like Great America or something, or like a water world, and they're like all go woo, fly down, and as they're going back down this like slide, all of a sudden they are back in their regular clothes, and they all kind of run into each other, and as they get down there, and they all get up and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, okay. And like, oh, we're back to our normal selves and back on the road. And we have finished the first trial. And then Alice is like, Sharon. They're like, what? She's dead. And they look at her and her eyes are wide open. And she's like, dead. And we're like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden they look over at Agatha and Agatha's like, who's Sharon? And the episode ends. All right. So, what are you guys' thoughts on the final portion of the episode? What did you think about the hallucinations? What did you think about the getting the ingredients and making this potion and them all dealing with each other? The slide they go down, the death of Sharon. What do you think? Do you think Sharon's really dead? And kind of your overall thoughts on the latter part of the episode. This time starting with Andres.
Yes. I wanted to give a shout out to this person, my soul. Yes, justice for my Sharon, or justice for Sharon. I shouldn't say that. Wow. When I was finishing up the episode and they brought up Sharon, I was like, oh, okay, what happened to Sharon? She probably ran off again. And then she was dead. I was like, what? I was like, whoa, did not expect that. Like, I was surprisingly surprised. I don't know. Like, I think she is dead because I seen the trailers and I just can't remember if she like was in more footage. I don't know. Like, this just throws me off now. Like, for the next episode, I'm like, God damn it. And then of course, Harkness in her like cynical humor, or her dark sense of humor. She's like, who's Sharon? I'm like, what the hell, lady? And then like cuts it up, so I'm like, perfect. Like this was my favorite episode. Just the way they did it here was just like really fun. The trial finally getting the trial was really great. You saw the horror sense of it was really great. I mean, Cyber brought up like the Hansel Gretel like reference. When we saw the Crayo for for Harkness, it was very much Roseman Baby, the 1960 movie by Roman Pikes. Like it reminded me of that, because we don't see spoilers for that movie. The baby is a devil, Satan. You don't see it's like, oh my god, my eyes, the arms, like it was like that, and it was weird. And I agree with Saber. It's the first time I see Harkness so vulnerable, and so I'm very curious, like what she did to her kid. Like it was that bad. The tree over the Darkhold. It's crazy. So I thought that was really great, and I thought the trials for each of the characters was interesting. My favorite, I'm wondering when we get more of this, was Leah's trial. Like it was so The Witch, like for me. Like I don't really see the A24 movie, the Witch. It was like that. Like this little kid, and then like I don't know, that was like a Salem like creature that like yeah, okay. Like that was really creepy, and I thought that was well executed. Yeah, and then yeah, exactly. It was going crazy. And then Wu's her trial, seeing her mom, I was not expecting that. I thought we were maybe save that for her trial or something like that. I was very surprised by that. That was very very surreal. And yeah, and I kind of like the idea of making a potion and like antidote. So I really like that we're adding these different skills from these witches, which is really interesting. Yeah, I just had nothing to say. I was so surprised with this ending. This made me really hooked now for the show, and I just hope they keep it going.
Thank you, sir. Jack, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I enjoyed the hallucinations specifically because I felt like it brought a really serious tone to the show and to the episode. Like it brought itself out of the fantasy almost and became really sober as a show when we had hallucinations. So I liked how that changed up the pace and the overall tone of the episode and the show so far. It really pushed the horror boundaries a little bit, in like a cinematic way. And that was cool. I enjoyed that. It was the kind of tone I needed to balance out the content, to balance out the episode and the show. So hats off, to them that they picked it up a lot from episode 3 to episode 2. I didn't like visually how cheap the imagery looked of like the cauldron of the mixed up stuff. It just became this like purple, water or whatever, like it looked kind of cheapo. You know what I mean? Like I'm sorry, but it did. And did anybody else notice that the stove got bigger? Like when they first showed the stove, it was one size. Then when they had to go in it, it got bigger. The stove did. The entrance to it did.
I mean, well, it's magic. They could do that. So like it's you get to this. That's a dispense disbelief. Really, it's magic. They could do whatever they want. Like it could go up size like that. It's like Alice in Wonderland. So that's not a big deal. It's a magical thing.
Thank you, Time Cop. Thank you, Time Lord. I appreciate you making it clear to me what's going on with Agatha All Along, sir. Thank you. Cyber, that's all I got, sir. I'm checking out. I'll send it over to Ryan.
All right. Ryan, your thoughts, please, sir.
All right. First of all, I knew Sharon was probably going to meet a demise because Jennifer at the beginning said, Mrs. Hart, I hate to tell you this, but you drank the first drink, so you're going to be our canary in the mine. And if you haven't cracked open a history book in a while, those birds did not last long in the mine. As soon as the bird died, that's how you knew it was time to get out. So I already had a feeling it wasn't going to end well. That being said, the hallucinations were great. It gives you a lot of background to the characters. And I think Jennifer has the most kind of to lose from this because Agatha would get her powers back and be all powerful again. The teen wants to be powerful. Lilia, she just wants to undo some stuff or reverse her fortune. Alice could either bring her mom back or get closure. Jennifer ends up at neutral just to get unbound to keep the same powers that she's lost access to. She doesn't get she doesn't get anything like really out of it. She just gets to kind of come back to ground base. And you could tell from her hallucination that guy that bound her powers, which we're assuming that's what happened, she knew him somehow, and she was either betrayed or something bad happened. So that was fantastic. I laughed my ass off when they got that sync going and they're like, is it chartreuse? What is chartreuse? Is it green? Is it blue? I don't know. Maybe teal. I laughed because I couldn't tell you what half those colors were. I would have just started drinking the potion. What I don't understand and where I got lost is they all put their hair in, chanted, and drank the potion. They knew Sharon's body was on the table, did not think to go like pluck a strand of hair from her head to put in this potion to like somehow include it. And that's probably, I don't want to say they killed her, but you would think that someone would have picked that up and been like, oh, hey, maybe we should take a little hair from her and include her in on this. I don't really understand why that really annoyed me to no end. And it was crazy because as we were saying before too, Agatha finally showed, which her hallucination just makes me want to know, why did she give up her child, which she must have some feelings for the Darkhold? What forced her to get that book to make that kind of deal? She's so sympathetic for it. Something bad must have happened that she had to think, do I want power or do I need to give maybe my child a way to protect it and get power? Which is crazy because as soon as they got washed out of the oven, she immediately went to Jennifer and said, oh, nice knowledge. Glad you remembered. And they quickly went right back to being enemies. And I think she definitely put up that front because everything was way too raw. So I'm very excited to see what's going to come next in episode 4.
Excellent. Awesome. Totally agree. I think that the ending, this whole episode was very entertaining, kept you on your seat. I really enjoyed it. I especially loved the end portion of this episode, them making that potion, all the side effects that they have to endure, and how it ends just leaves you kind of like, oh my god, what are they gonna do? And killing off Sharon, I was like, I couldn't believe it too. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, that sucks. And because like I said, I love Deborah Jo Rupp. She's so funny. And so I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, all the shit that Wanda put her through, and then she gets stuck in another thing like this and gets killed. I'm like, that really sucks. And so I was kind of like rooting, like, come on, Sharon, pull through this. Sharon, pull through this. So I'm like, I'm hoping that maybe something will come out of it, like she'll actually not be dead. But still, great, stellar ending, I thought. Really fun. I thought it was very entertaining, and I loved getting to see everyone's kind of backstories as well, just like everyone said that. And I mean, totally, please help my soul. I totally could mean bringing in finally BRIO. Especially, I'm really shocked that we haven't seen Aubrey Plaza since episode 1. I thought she'd be at least, more than, most of the episodes, but I didn't think that she was going to be absent 2 whole episodes. So hopefully we'll get to see her soon again. That'll be interesting to see just exactly who she is, what her character really is. I think some of the theories I feel about Rio is some have been saying they think, hey, maybe she is Blackheart. Maybe she's Mephisto. We don't know. She could be a part of that group, whatever. She could be another character that's a part of that group, So I'm looking forward to seeing where that leads to as well. So I think fantastic ending to this episode, and just a great overall episode too. Especially, I mean, the fact that the heart that, instead of being a name and it's just a black heart that, Patty LuPone says it's on the thing, that's kind of a big reference to Blackheart. So, I mean, once again, we're definitely getting into Mephisto here eventually. So I think that they're definitely finally pushing it that way. And, Agatha is kind of pushing us finally towards that element of the MCU. All right. Great job, everyone. Another billion points for everyone. All right. What is everyone's rating on this episode? Starting with you, Jeff.
This one I'll give an 8.
Wow. Awesome. Andres?
9. I give it a 9 out of 10. This was fantastic. Really love it.
Excellent. Ryan?
Oh, this is 10 out of 10. If they confirm the teen to be who I think he is, this is going to be fantastic.
I give it a solid 10 out of 10 as well. I enjoyed it more than episode 2, and I enjoyed it more than episode 1. And definitely a really solid episode that was really enjoyable. So hands down, yeah, most definitely. So last question. So going into the next episode, what are you guys' theories? Like, what do you expect or what do you think won't happen moving on? And with what we've seen in the last 3 episodes altogether, what do you think we're heading towards? Starting with you, Andres.
I can say that, like, I think this Africa is gonna just use this covenant to just regain her powers, because that's the whole point of her going through this with the teen. Is like she doesn't like this idea, but she needs power, and if we ever get the Scarlet Witch solo film, if that's even a thing soon, you definitely want to see her again in that solo film, and I think you want to get her powers back right away. And so I think that's what happened. And I do agree with the person in the comment section, my soul. We will see Rio next episode, because I was kind of surprised, because I thought when Miss Foreman's purse was in the ground, I thought that's how Rio would come out, because we saw in the trailer she was coming out from a ground in one of the trailers. What I saw in the trailers. So I think we're going to see her again, not tomorrow, but next week in episode 4, and see more what's her relation with Harkness, and see either she's I really like the ideas that she could be Mephisto or Blackheart. But I'm just happy to see her process. She's a great actress, and I love her since Sparks and Legion. Legion was a great show, and she was amazing there. Yeah, that's where I think we're gonna go. And I hope I don't see Sharon coming alive. No offense, but we need another witch that takes the earth, and I think Rio is gonna do that for next week.
Ryan?
For sure. I think Kitty Foreman, unfortunately, has met her demise. We will not see her again. As much as I want to see everyone else's backstory come, I really want to see Jennifer's story and find out why she got bound in the first place. I really want to see more of Agatha, just because in the comic books, she didn't really do much in the comic books. She was always there. She always consulted with magic. They never really gave her a clear-cut story. So this is the first time they kind of got a lot of liberties to take. And you don't really know why the whole Darkhold thing. I mean, she held the Darkhold for so long, and then finally Scarlet Witch in 2 weeks of crying over Vision kind of took everything from her. For everything that she traded in, she lost everything like right away. So I'm really curious if she knew, because she obviously knew who the Scarlet Witch was when she had the Darkhold. So I'd like to see them kind of explain more onto that mystery.
Excellent. Jeff, anything you'd like to add, sir?
Yeah, I just like to see Agatha get more restored so that she's more coherent to like the WandaVision timeline, and then them to stick with the road and stick with the more adult tone to the series. Less the cringe, more the adult is what I want to see.
All right. Excellent, everyone. Great job. All right. So that is it for the episode 2 and 3 recap of Agatha All Along. Tonight's Shogun winner is Ryan. He is the Shogun winner tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So I will push it over to Mr. Jeff S., and he will take us out.
Okay, well, I'll start off with Ryan since he won the Shogun Award. If I could get you pulled up, Ryan.
Yeah, no worry. We're there somewhere.
There you go.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, that's our website. We're really active on Instagram and our YouTube. Trying to do as many interviews. We just did an interview for the Kingdom Come documentary by Alex Ross that's coming out soon that they're kickstarting. We've had tons of people on the show, a lot of indie creators. Jason Fabic stopped by. We had the original Sindel from Mortal Kombat, who did all the game design for that. Just a whole bunch of different people in the industry and just trying to show people, educate them on comic books.
I got your YouTube channel. I've got your YouTube up too.
Awesome.
There you go. There he is.
And there we are.
Do you use StreamYard?
We do.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, StreamYard.
There he is.
The best.
All right, Ryan. Thank you very much, brother. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Thank you. No, you're good.
Andre's pop culture guy, sir.
Yes. Yeah, Ryan, it was great to see you, brother. This was a fun show. Yeah, so I'm not doing much. I'm just wrapping up stuff for September content. Just post the famous dance scene from Wednesday, the J.R. Ortega Lee show, because in 2 days it's going to be your birthday, and putting something together, something special, and that. No live stream this week. I just did a new short, doing the Wednesday dance. That's it. But yeah, just a lot of Batman content because last week was Batman Day, Saturday, so whatever. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us. It's can't believe it's going to be October soon.
That's right, baby. I'll come back and do another live stream with you next Sunday, Andreas.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I will do a recap.
You did a Penguin Agatha.
Yes. So I am going to do episode 2 recap on the Penguin episode 2 and Agatha episode 3 when we get to episode 2 of Penguin next Sunday. So the second week, you will see that live stream when I will discuss that. I forgot. So yeah, that's going to be.
Oh man, are you doing solo live streams?
I mean, try it out. It's fun. I make my notes.
Oh man. Oh man, Cyber.
All right, so everyone, if you enjoy me as a moderator, if you enjoy me as on the panel, you can check out my solo content. You can find me under Cyberneticshark. Find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, the TikToky, the Patreon-y, all those great places. I pretty much post on a regular basis, so you can check me out there. But anyways, yeah, if you enjoy that me on here, you can check out my most recent trailer reaction there of Terrifier 3, which comes out next month. Or you can check out my Alien Romulus movie review as well. I put up a couple little mini reviews of a couple movies I had seen in recent weeks. Really haven't put up much because I have been under the weather. So I've been working on those, but I got a couple there for you guys there. Summer Party Massacre and Galaxy of Terror. And having my Beetlejuice review up soon. And more trailer reactions, stuff like that. So keep your eyes out for that stuff. Keep on subscribing. Keep on helping me and Andreas keep on improving and growing. Help the MCU's Bleeding Edge keep growing, people. We want to thank you all. And, keep on watching.
We'll see you on Friday for the Rings of Power, Episode 7, with Cyberneticshark back in the saddle moderating with JRant 2000 and Rathacon. Right, Cyber?
Right.
There you go. All right. Peace, folks. Have a good rest of the week. See you on Friday.